Still starting, and we are live. So, first of all, I'd like to give my gratitude to our Patreons who motivated me to start this podcast, the Cosmic Theater Podcast. And this is our second episode. And I have a dear, not even friend, not even a brother, a cosmic brother. Okay? That's kind of how we refer to each other as. We refer to each other as cosmic brothers. And my friend Akash, how many times have we been in this situation where we're broadcasting, where we're talking? How many lifetimes? How many lifetimes have we known each other?
I think the way that we can understand how the existence of non-duality is, we've been doing this for a while.
A long time, right?
Yeah.
That's why we refer to each other as cosmic brothers, because we I guess, our particular uh, lot in, because since we're all God, and since you're God, I'm God, the particular individual part of God that is me, the particular individual part of God that is you, by cosmic design, by whatever you want to call it, we're sort of like soul family, we just kind of keep popping in and out of each other's lives over and over and over.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think one day we can figure it out, like where the past happened and how it happened.
I think the more we go down this line of work, the more spontaneously our spiritual power cities, right? The cities will open up. Like, for example, the Buddha, when he got enlightened under the Bodhi tree, he saw in his enlightenment, he saw his last 99,000 incarnations. And because his spiritual powers sort of opened up. And shortly after, he went and, because he was meditating with these ascetics, with these crazy people that do extreme fasting and whatnot, using his spiritual powers, which he unlocked just spontaneously, he was able to track down where his old crew were, if you will, his old homies.
Wow.
Okay, so yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, man. So I think, I think we'll be able to. I'm curious. Like, it does. I don't think it matters so much to know where you came from, but it's for curiosity's sake. When I say came from, what are the past, let's say, most recent 10 lifetimes?
I think do you think it's religious based about what you did religiously the last life in terms of like seeking?
I definitely think that, to give you an example, I definitely think I've been doing this kind of work, public speaking slash preaching slash spreading the light, if you will. I definitely think I've been doing it for some time now. I definitely think that I've been doing this for a while, and it comes naturally to me. So I think a lot of the things we do in this lifetime, and if we do them naturally and spontaneously and we do them well, I definitely think we've been doing that type of work for a while.
I think so. I think when we are born, we're kind of given like this one personality by our parents and TV shows, right? But there's something that happened that's within not even the brain. Something, the brain and the body is temporary, but something that seems to be a reoccurring permanence from life to life. I think that's universal within us, and like people who, yeah, just actually everybody.
Well, it's kind of like, this is the nature package we're in, the mind, the body, and it's an illusion. Why is it an illusion? Because it's always changing. Like, if you sit down for 30 minutes and observe your thoughts, they're just changing. Like, they're just going from one thought to another, one thought form to another. In the same way, the same thing is happening in your body. Your body's constantly changing. So when you try to pinpoint yourself, which initially you start off thinking yourself is your nature package, your mind and your body. If you try to pinpoint it, you can't. It's impossible. You can't do it because it's always changing. So the idea is there's got to be some kind of a comedian, some kind of a consciousness watching the movie behind, because like when you watch a movie, the frames are constantly changing, but you're sitting there watching it,
Mhm.
right? So that permanent self you're talking about is the one watching the movie.
That's really interesting. If we can identify the moment of time, or we can identify the moment with that we are aware that we are watching, then we can see how everything that's occurred before and after, it's the same time frame. It's like every scene would be the same. It would be a reoccurring thing that you're aware of.
Well, it's kind of like this now for everybody that's watching. This podcast has already been uploaded from your end, from your perspective as the watcher. You're watching this,
Hmm.
it's been recorded, it's been uploaded. You could go to the last minute of it, you could go to the first minute of it, and guess what? It's all happening now, 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 now. So if you jump ahead to the last minute of the podcast, it's happening now. If you go
Yeah.
back to the beginning of it, it's happening now. It's already there, it's already uploaded. And you introduced me to the whole, you basically were one of the first people to introduce me to Hinduism, right? And you talked about the Akashic record. Your name is Akash, right? So, you told me about the Akashic records. And I think what the Akashic records are, it's just the uploaded video, the uploaded DVD, if you will.
The Akashic record. There was a man named Edgar Casey. I learned about him in middle school. They taught it to us in school. I think they stopped teaching it randomly. And this is before the internet. He would go in and out of this trance state, and he would answer questions like how to fix medical problems back then. And because he said that in the future they're gonna start putting nails in people's knees, they actually started doing it because he just took it from the. And this is all recorded and taught in school.
What did he say? What, can you repeat that? What did he say about the future?
Uh, he said that a way to fix, I guess, a problem within the knee, you can put a screw in it in a certain way or a nail in a certain way, and that's what they're
Ah,
going to do. So we can do this right now.
ah.
And he said that he would go into the Akashic records and get it from there.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. They call him the Dream Prophet because he would
Yeah,
go into, yeah, he
yeah,
would,
he would go into dream state. Yeah, he would sleep.
yeah, he was getting all his prophecies, and they were incredibly accurate. Incredibly,
Yeah,
I mean, his accuracy rate was ridiculous, right? It
yeah.
was it was ridiculous. His success rate, if you or whatever. So I guess, okay, let's take Edgar Casey for example. You know, I would kind of look at these types of people as very, very evolved souls
Yeah.
who came here not necessarily because they have desires or attachments per se, but they came here to fulfill a certain purpose. And when they were done with it, they just kind of left. They just kind of dipped.
Edgar Casey made a lot of good contributions. I think he got the people who are secular in the seeking really involved. It was a path for the people who are very secular, to interact with the people who are very spiritual, to like make this consciousness even more.
Right. And I think at every time, even now, you need people who quote unquote do miracles so that they can blow the rational mind of the secular person, because the secular
Mm.
person is secular because they're basically slave to their rational mind, right? The rational mind only works within the system of nature, the system of creation. It can't go outside the system, you
Hmm.
see. So then you have people coming in and performing miracles. I mean, they're only miracles from the point of view of the rational mind, who thinks that all there is material existence, a material world. Miracles blow the rational mind of the beholder of the miracle, and then from that point on, you can't unsee it. I mean,
Yeah.
can you tell me? I mean, you've told me dozens of times, but can you tell me and everybody else watching about the miracle that you've encountered?
I've done some things to my own spine from the tailbone to the brain, but what I've seen before is Raja Yoga in effect. And Raja Yoga, there's a thing about breaking your own mind from the inside, but actually seeing it in reality, physical things that don't make sense together, working together. Then I realized that like there's a little bit more to what's like our reality.
Right, right. And also, what about the thing with the people reading what was on your cell phone, I believe, right?
Yeah, that's right. So my friend came to this event where they were going to Swamiji Nityananda Swamiji's disciples from India. They're going to read blindfolded. So I took a picture of my friend who I didn't know was going to be there, his wife's passport, and I had my phone also on low contrast by accident, and I gave it to the girl, and she looked at it, and like, but she doesn't look at it like with her eyes, like she's looking at it, and she said, "I can't read this. This is passport." And I was astonished because I'm not part of this. Like I just showed up, and this is a whole random occurrence. And I mean, she read every single word and every single letter. It was on point.
I remember you were mind blown. Like I remember we were doing the laundry, and you're just like, man, like you're just like, no, no, no way, like no way.
Yeah, this is like we've used those blindfolds to meditate in the woods. I think those blindfolds, like it's like a foam around.
It here. I talk about it a lot in the videos, and you got me into it. I have it right there, and it's incredible. I remember, I still use it, but I remember when back in the summer when we used to do our meditations, we used to go into the woods and whatever. Like, man, I was putting him on. I was doing the Wim Hof breathing. I'm not doing that anymore right now. I should, but I'm not doing it anymore. And I used to see like the clear white light that everybody talks about,
It's the
just
very
grounds.
I think it's the very little DMT release, just very little, but it's enough to see something.
Okay, let's talk about the clear white light because I just listened to the Tibetan book of the dead,
Mm.
and they talk about as soon as you die, you're going to be confronted with the clear white light, and they describe it as the true nature of mind. Okay, so what do you think? What do you think this clear white light is?
I actually tried this other color, like seeing the other color. I tried it on myself, and how it was true. And I remember doing some yoga positions and pulling up the vagus nerve, the Wim Hof, and then leaving it there, and then letting the mind try to go through its like different state. And I realized when I closed my eyes, I would see a certain color. And when I opened them, it was that color that was not part of whatever I looked at last. So you know how you can look at the last thing and then close your eyes, and that last thing might be like a vibration into your right. But this is a different color that happened. And I think like in terms of after death, I heard of this person, a very random person told me, this Native American. Uh, she said that when you die, you get to see all the things that you could have done consciously different. She didn't say it exactly in those words, but that's the paraphrase. That's what it was.
Interesting, interesting. So, okay, that brings me to the question. Do you think we have free will? Do you think we make choices?
Yeah, but it has to take real serious willpower from us to make our decisions happen, or else it'll just be as written,
But
which might
here's
not
the
be a bad thing.
okay, but here's okay, here's a perspective, right? cause and effect. We live in, I mean, that's what karma is, right? Karma is means action. It means, you do
Yeah.
something, you reap its consequences. This is a, not just in Hinduism and
Hmm.
Buddhism and the Indian religions, like this is in every religion, in Islam, same thing. Like, you do something, you reap the rewards. You reap the rewards. So, okay, if we look at nature and everything, if I look at the action, like for example, us talking right now in a podcast, that's the effect right now, isn't it? That's the effect of whatever happened in your past, in my past. The effect of it is that we're now conversing. However, if the effect is already taking place, okay, and the effect is the result of the cause, doesn't that mean that every single action and every single effect has already been determined because the cause has already happened? Do you understand what I'm saying here? Like the cause has already happened. So every effect, like everything that's happening right now, it's the result of the cause of what already happened. So then, does that mean we have any choice, or are we karmically predetermined to have this conversation right now?
I think Sadhguru said something about the entire whatever is happening in the cosmos, you can feel it in your spine. If you have the awareness of what it is, you can feel it, right? So that effect is physically happening to us already. We're just not aware of it, like what is about to happen or what is going to happen, this kind of stuff. But with this specific awareness of the spine, you could also tell about what's going to happen as it goes this way and that way. Um, but also, I think that you can break out of this too. You can do something very sporadic, and with enough willpower you can also break out of it. Not that you may want to or not want to. That's not, I'm not sure about the good and bad, but
Mm.
it's the you can. But it does take the, I think Swamiji says, will to the umbilical to the will to the cosmos is willpower.
Can you repeat that again?
The umbilical cord to the cosmos is willpower.
Okay, now let's suppose that that's true. Wouldn't you also, like, can keep zooming out, wouldn't you say that even the statement, the experience of free will, and getting up and using your free will, wouldn't you say that that might also just be predetermined? It's already like written into it. Like I know they're doing some experiments with video games, right? Very, very like draft type shit, and they're saying that they are going to be able to give quote unquote free will to the characters in the game, right? They're gonna able to give them the choice to make their choices in the game. So however you give the character within the game free will, at the end of the day it's programmed. Even the concept of free will, the experience of free will, the utilization of free will, using your free will, wouldn't you say that that might just be written in the game, programmed within the game, that even you using your free will is really just determined?
You know, this reminds me of artificial intelligence, like how they're creating the artificial intelligence. And I watched some video about it, and I feel like it relates to how we are doing as humans. And the way that the humans are programming this, I'm not really sure fully deeply into this, but it's basically one robot teaches the other robot about randomized things that are question answered. You know what I mean, like data. And this goes back and forth, and it reminds me of the fact that we have the self and then we have the brain, and we're just trying to go back and forth, and that's like artificial intelligence, right?
Right.
And I find that the the data that the robots feed on is limited. just like the human mind. So all of our minds, we want to believe something that all makes sense, but each of us have a problem with data access. So some people in, like, let's say, the Arctic, they have a completely different data access than somebody from, like, North America or South America. But we're the same person in a way, but our data access is different. So the artificial intelligence that's being created, or the intelligence being created, it's just like very poor limited. All of us, every single one of us.
Right, right. Because it's like when you say people in the Arctic have different data than say people in the tropics, because you start to see everything as a software. Like, I grew up in Qatar and I was raised in the Qatar software, if you will, and
Exactly,
all that comes
logistics.
with it, and all the data points that come with it, the religion,
Hmm.
the customs, the traditions, the foods, and the foods condition your taste buds, and they condition your preferences and what you prefer in your foods, what you prefer it to taste like. So
Exactly.
like, that's different data point than someone who grew up in the tropics eating fruits, for example.
Yeah.
They're gonna have the software which prefers to eat fruits. The taste buds are going to be different, and yeah, we're a lot like artificial intelligence.
Exactly. I feel like I want to say something controversial. With this like statement, it almost then would be that the KKK and terrorists are the same, but just with their same frequency with different data points. That's all the differences. They're just born in different places, and the logistics changed it.
Right. Okay. I have a good analogy for this. It's kind of like, say, like we're living right now in Canada, right? So let's say you turn on channel or radio station 98.5, and let's say 98.5 plays rock music,
Hmm.
okay? And let's say somebody living in Russia, for example, right? And they tune in the frequency of, let's say they go into channel 96.5. 96.5 for them plays rock, making 96.5 and 98.5, the Canadian version, 96.5, the Russian version, the same frequency. One is playing rock in Russian and one is playing rock in English.
Hmm.
Okay, but it's the same frequency because it's rock, it's both rock. So KKK and ISIS, although different data points, different language, still the same frequency, it's playing the same thing. So one
Yeah.
is receiving the frequency in the language of, say, Arabic, and one is receiving the frequency in the language of English, and they're sort of receiving the same thought patterns, the same data points, just delivered in a different language.
I think the same wrong things are going on in between both characters.
Yeah.
Just
So, so this to me explain also why, if you read the Tao Te Ching, and if you read the Gita, and if you read even the Quran and the Bible, it starts to get quite redundant, in the sense
it's the
like,
same thing.
yeah, it's redundant, man. Like, I'm just like, okay, what else is new? Now I read the Tao
I
Te
know.
Ching, I'm like, yeah, that's what Jesus said in the Bible.
I
And,
know.
then, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's exactly what Krishna said in the Gita. Like, for example, the Tao Te Ching is about it's about non-attachment, non-action. And Krishna talks about karma yoga, which is doing an action without attachment. They're talking about the same thing. Really, they're talking about the same thing, just in a different layer, but it's the exact same thing. And it's like, because they both, Krishna and Lao Tzu, they both tuned in the same frequency. One received it in Sanskrit, one received it in whatever Chinese, and it's like, but it's the same thing.
There's this specific beauty that's common in between all of these Bibles. It is the same beauty that's written in code. You know what I mean? Some in Arabic, some in Sanskrit, some in English. It's the same thing, reoccurring.
Yeah, yeah, and so the problem, in my opinion, is that when you become attached and dogmatic about your way as the way, as opposed to our way. If everybody can look at their way as a way as opposed to the way, then I think a lot of our conflicts would disappear with this simple change in perspective.
I think so. You know, there's one specific um, way. I don't know what if it's part of the the 112 methods that Shiva wrote, but it's it's seeing the difference between or summing up all the other entity other than self as other, like a million elements, everything, the whole universe, basically, people to like trees to like animals as other, and then there's self. So there's just then two existence.
Subject
And
and object, basically. Your
yeah,
subject, everything is object.
and when we see that actually it is the one, it is the same, this path, then you can read all these different bibles and read the same words. It'll be the same thing over and over. But I think it's difficult because our society TV doesn't teach this specific concept. And if children, let's say, understood this at age 7, imagine like how much different socially he would and or she would interact, right? Like it would be world changing.
Yeah, man, we talked about this a lot, but the mass consciousness of the planet is like, it's such a low frequency right now. It's such a, like, do you think we're in the Kali Yuga right now?
I think that there's a high number of people who are really has a lot of the wealth, and but in terms of violence wise we're a little bit better since our previous years. So I'm not sure because like then there's two other things happening now. And so I'm not sure exactly because Kali Yoga is supposed to be very violent, right? From my take on it, I'm not 100% sure. You can correct me. But we don't have the violence that we used to. But it seems like although there's no violence, this utopia, it includes a lot of having to go to work, which I'm not saying is bad or good, but it's a thing that now has been created, like having to do something. Then it takes away from our time to be like, okay, what's happening with this tree, right? Between the self and other and sitting with this tree, then it makes our society not be able to do this process.
Man, I remember the first time I took mushrooms and I was in the woods, I was in nature. Now, building up to my first mushroom trip, I have been visiting nature, often. It's, because my first trip was in May and, the weather was getting nicer, and I have been visiting nature often, okay? But after my first trip, I could never, ever, ever walk down the street and not be aware of the trees. But before, I didn't care. Like, I would go to nature before my first mushroom trip just to enjoy myself and go back to the city. And when I went back to the city, I didn't notice that there were trees in the city. I didn't notice that there were squirrels. Nothing, because I would go, because it's like, in my mind, in my conditioned mind, there is city and humans, and there is nature and wilderness. However, after my first mushroom trip, it like zoomed me out and I saw the whole thing. I saw that we just manipulated nature with our rational mind and our free will and all that comes with it and our so-called intelligence. We just manipulated nature. We're living in the middle of nature. We just manipulated it, took some wood, made some houses, took some raw material, made some streets, and took more raw material, made clothes, made this, made coats, blah blah blah. And I could never look at it the same again. I'd walk down the street and be like, huh, there's trees here. And I could never just ignore the trees anymore. I could never ignore the squirrels. I could never ignore life, other life forms, because this whole thing of growing up in the city and this whole thing of being a city boy and a city girl from basically birth, it makes you so egotistical. When I say egotistical, again, ego is not arrogance, although that's part of it. Having an inflated ego. Ego just means separation. Means you have a storyline of me and other. And to me, living in a city your whole life, never being exposed to nature, never being barefoot in it, never seeing other life forms. That's the epitome of the inflation of the ego, of the separation of human and other. You know.
It's really interesting that you've talked about these walls and all of our materials actually the source of nature. I think in a way all of this existence is nature, and nature is this closest element on earth to a higher power. So Rumi says something like God is right here. Like, where are you looking for?
Yeah.
The existence is right here, but we're not seeing it because we're so busy having to do things. We can't just see it.
Yeah, I think the word you're looking for is purity. Purity.
Mm.
So nature is pure. Purity, I'll quote
Mm.
from us, right, from his book. Consciousness equals energy, equals light, equals love, equals truth, equals wisdom, equals purity. And because nature is so pure, it just is. There is nothing interfering with it. There is no species asserting its will. Everything is just moving along with purity. It's pure, it's virgin, it's just the way it is. It's like that. It's funny because the Tao translates to the way, right? The path or the way. So in nature, you're in the presence of purity. And when you're in the presence of purity, you're in presence of the way it is, the way things are, which is so magnificent, so brilliant, so beautiful. And it's our free will, albeit being an illusion, really just an experience in the game. It's almost like God is playing with itself. It gave itself the illusion of free will, and then it's finding its way back to its original purity. And so this new movement now, people going back to nature, there is an element of surrender. Like, forget about your free will, forget about your way, just let's go back to nature, go back to the way. Not my way, but the way, right? Not my will, but thy will.
You know, we were talking earlier about breaking the construction of our reality, right? Breaking the foundation of the mind. It doesn't mean to like go crazy and stuff. It's just to completely be aware of the flaw of the fact that you think this is what your personality is, right? And once we break this foundation and we go by the nature, then in the depth of my meditation, I came to this one conclusion that nature is always listen, it can hear us. So when we are breaking the foundation of our mind, I believe then we have a better transmit receive of the nature. So if in the state of no foundation and it is all one and other is the same, walking through nature, it's pretty much as receive transmission is like at 1,000%.
Right. We're essentially plugged in into the highest possible frequency we can plug in within the physical frequency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I love hanging around nature, and like we pretty much hang around there all summer in Dundas. And isn't it just so beautiful? Isn't it just so pure, so beautiful, so magnificent? It's like, remember the Stairway to Heaven? The Stairway to Heaven. I mean, the moons and the stars, and it's just so
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's true. I think in the state of in this meditation, it really brings you closer to the state of no self, non-duality. But it's interesting that when we leave nature and then we have to deal with certain situation in the city life, it takes our awareness of that like away until we can see it again. But I wonder what is exactly needed to make this a permanence that at all situations. I think like Krishna, Jesus, these Muhammad, all of these beings had to deal with so many different um, tough conditions that we like average people don't deal with, right? But they remained in a state of no anger. You know what I mean? Enlightened masters, enlightened people, they stay in the state of no anger because even as a situation occurs, even a little bit of bump, it's like as it's happening, it's like the non-duality increases for them. It must be. Do you know what I mean? Like it increases, and they can see around the whole thing before it turns.
Right, right. Because I think they're not identified with their nature package. They're not identified with the character, with the physical body and the physical the brain and the mind. And because they're not identified with it, they're not prone to anger. Because when you think about it, what causes you anger is things not going in the way that you have been conditioned to expect them. Like, for example, if you get angry in traffic, you expected the streets to be empty, you expected people to be nice, to be polite, but here you are, everyone's been an asshole and it's just rush hour. And because you're been conditioned with your mind to expect something and it's not the way it is, you're getting angry. Now these enlightened masters, they weren't really too concerned with what this character preferences are. Like, you know there's a line from a Zen Buddhist book, the third patriarch of Zen, from Zen Buddhism. The first line of it: the great Tao, the great way, is not difficult for those who have no preferences. And those enlightened masters didn't have any preferences. Jesus didn't care that he was going to get crucified. You know what Jesus said before? He looked at his disciples and he said, all right, tomorrow's going to be the big day. I guess I got to go get crucified. And he was so casual about it. He didn't care. Like, no identification with the nature package.
I think it seems to be the greatest yogis of our existence. It seems to be that they have no problem with the way that it's gonna go, but they will do it till the very end. But they have absolutely no problem of the personal pain that they're gonna feel out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I really think they don't give a shit. I think all the great enlightened masters do not have too many fucks to give, or any fucks to give for that matter.
Do you think there's been a lot of enlightened masters with very different in different time frames, so they had to act in a certain way to move the public? Because you as like I find that these enlightened yogis that come through different ages of time, they're not usually the controller, but they seem to be right beside the people who like influencing them to make the right decision. So like the biggest mass of like rich people basically, and like the most um powered people, they to influence them with non-duality, then it's like now you just turn the human race into like a way people with power can help.
Right, right. Because, like, you'll see Muhammad, for example, he was born and raised in the tribe of Quraysh, which is the most powerful tribe in Mecca at the time. Buddha was a prince. Buddha was a prince. He was born into royalty. So whatever he said, it held a great weight, a great value, and he was already privileged growing up. So I think you're right. I think at every stage you'll see that a lot of the enlightened masters, oh, like Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu was a librarian in a Chinese courthouse. Okay, so he was also close to, royalty. So you're right. I think they're always not the controllers, but they're sort of, around the people who are in control. And they seem to be, the truly enlightened beings seem to be very contemporary, meaning they're they're with the times. They're with the times. Like, Sadhguru, I don't know if he's enlightened fully, but he's very cautious. He's a great teacher. And I think he's a great example of a contemporary guru, a contemporary teacher.
Mm.
He's very much with the times.
I think whenever I think about these different gurus and questioning the level of enlightenment, I find that actually a very interesting uh, topic on this is that some of these gurus didn't agree with each other, but they were enlightened on the same truth.
Right, right.
This is the part where the path to becoming enlightened is truth of like conclusions of this existence, and yet maybe even if they were speaking in the same room, they would have a difficult manner of how to explain to each other, but they're both telling the truth.
Like, put Osho and Sadhguru in the same room, and they're gonna disagree over almost everything.
I think a lot of people don't agree with the way that Osho did things, but I find that they were Sadhguru got asked this question one time. What's his thoughts on Osho? And he said that Osho has a lot of controversial things about him. Sadhguru said that he did as what it would be for the time, for that time. And
Right.
that time was very different. That was like the 80s, the 70s, the 90s. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? It's a completely different time.
so it was a very different time. There was like that whole sexual liberation and the whole hippies and da 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 da, right? So it was a different time.
Osho had this thing about he would buy what is it, Rolls Royce, and people would he was on a question like not a question, like an interview, and they would say like, why do you keep getting these Rolls Royces? Like, aren't you supposed to be like a guru? And he said that, like, it's just that every time you ask me, I'll get another one. And this is the way that he had rolled. And in one of his speeches to the public, he said that he talked about Jesus and Jesus being in the mystery schools, and he made a remark like, you should see what we do here too. So although he had this whole controversial thing going on with them, he was building a mystery school in America and making it like public, but you have to have some sort of like capability to get there. You know what I mean? So like he it's interesting, and since then a roar like that in America in terms of non-duality hasn't happened in that kind of way. This was like a lot of people knew him, and like people who don't even follow non-duality. You know what I mean?
Well, it also challenges people's mental attachments. So if somebody's attached to a guru or a teacher or an enlightened being to be a certain way, and then somebody like Osho comes along and does the complete opposite of what you think, because you have this image in your head of, you've got to be like a poor, humble, all that, right? And then it
Yeah.
challenges your attachments, because at the end of the day, if you're truly enlightened or you're truly high up there, you accept everything. You don't really judge, you accept it. So when someone looks at Osho and says, oh, you're a fake guru, you're a fake teacher, because you're portraying this negative image of materiality and blah blah blah, well, the existence of Osho just challenged your own attachments. And we know attachment is the cause of suffering, and we know that we're all here to get rid of our attachments.
I find that a lot of people see attachment or detachment as a, such a negative thing, but I think it is just like trying to capture and keep what is love. Everything that it seems that we're attached to, it we are attached to it for a self purpose. Not that it's actually attached or detached in reality. In our mind, it's just attached because of like our own greed towards the element.
Towards the light. Like I'll give you an example. I'm attached to psychedelics at this stage in my life, right? At some point I'm gonna have to let go of them. I know that. But in the meantime, I'm attached to them. But why is it that I'm attached to psychedelics? Because what you just said, because they bring me closer to the light. They bring me closer to the love. And I'm attached to the psychedelics because I don't want to lose that love. I don't want to lose that light. You see? Because, I know now intellectually that I am the light, but I'm not really there intuitively. And because I'm not there intuitively and fully yet, my attachment to the psychedelic remains.
I think there's a way to commit action without this karma. You know what I mean? Like doing the same. You can do the things of all attachment, but refrain from attachment within. Like you can do all karmic attachment actions and be detached from it.
And then you won't create karma, right? If you're not attached, then there's no karma being created.
I think Sadhguru, he built a bunch of Shiva statues, or he's building a bunch, and he has them starting from the heart, like the heart chakra is not there. He has it just up, going up from here, going up just the head, right? And I read somewhere it was because he was showing it is without the emotional, like, because you are this to me, I will do this. You know what I mean? Because of this, I will now help you like that. This will gain me like that. So it's like it's heartlessness, but it's not actually heartlessness. It's actually all inclusiveness without me having a heart for this.
Right, right. Because the way I understand karma is you create karma with your actions, you create karma with your thoughts, and you create karma with your words. Three things. I learned this from Buddhism. In Buddhism, you have right view, or sorry, right thought, right action, and right speech as three of the eight tenets of the Eightfold Path, because these three create karma. So if you're, from what I understand, and this is sort of what I understand from karma yoga also, which is in the Gita,
Mm.
if you do an action and you completely surrender the outcome, there isn't karma being created. There simply is a dharmic, pure action being done. Let me give you an example. Let's say, let's say that I'm walking down the street and this old lady is being robbed by a thief. Now, if I intend in my mind that I'm going to catch the thief and make sure that he gives back the lady her stuff, because I want the lady and everyone in the street to think that I'm a good person, what I'm doing is I'm creating good karma. And if I, at the same time, if I don't act if I don't act because I'm afraid of something, I'm also creating bad karma. But if I act because I'm acting, there isn't any thought, there isn't an intention. There's no intention here of I want to look like the good person or I don't want to get hurt. There's just an action. So if I act in a way where I go and I basically catch the thief and I give her back her stuff, but there's no intention here in my mind, I haven't created any karma. I'm not gonna get good karma from this. So it's okay. In the same way, if I don't make any action, if I don't act, but not because I'm afraid, but because I'm not acting, there isn't an intention in my mind. I'm just I choose not to act. I don't even choose not to act. I just don't act. I just, I'm not thinking about it. I'm not intending anything. Then I haven't created any bad karma. It's kind of like this. I'll give another example because this one wasn't the best. So let's say that
Okay.
let's say that you're here, right, and you're here like in this room, and you're sleeping,
Mm.
okay, and I have let's say I have this pen here, okay, and you're sleeping, and let's say that I'm outside the room and I drop the pen and it makes a noise, okay. Now, if I drop the noise so I can wake you up, because I don't know, for whatever reason I need you to be up right now or whatever, I created karma, either good or bad, depending. Maybe I wanted to disturb your peace because it's disturbing my peace. So by dropping the pen, I created karma. However, if the pen simply dropped and you woke up because you heard some noise, you woke up, no karma for me because I didn't intend it. There was no intention, there was zero intention. So although you woke up and your peace was disturbed, because I didn't intend it, this wasn't there's no karma here. There is just a pure dharmic action. This is the pure spirit acting through me to drop the pen because you need to wake up. And therefore, there's no karma being created for me.
It's interesting that you can of if you're not like, let's say, into non-duality, if you don't want to think like non-duality, there's always a way to remember what is the definition of karma, and it's a really good way to navigate. And there's two things to get karma. The first thing is to cause suffering. So, and this is it's like analogous. So if you steal $1,000 from a millionaire, it's not the same karma as stealing $1 from a beggar. It varies depending on the output resultant.
Right, right. Interesting. So if I steal from a millionaire, I didn't cause him so much harm, so much trouble. So I might accumulate a little tiny bit of bad karma.
It's dependent on the personality of. So most people would be like, yeah, whatever, man, who cares? I got other money, right? But if you stole specifically from a millionaire that was like gonna go ape shit from it, then it would be bad karma. More. Do you get what I mean? It depends on the actual what happens in the world, the resultant.
Interesting. So, okay, let's I have an example in my head. Let's say that my neighbor has some fruits in her backyard, okay? And let's say I'm really hungry and I don't have money, there's no food and I'm hungry. Now, if I go and sneak up to her backyard and she's got a lot of fruits in there, and I kind of take whatever fruits just to satisfy my hunger, what's the karmic consequences here?
You're stealing. It would be stealing from somebody who is not more well off than you. I'm not saying you should be stealing, like, you know what I mean, depends, like rich people, but
What
if
if she
it's
was really okay? So, two cases. She's not that well off. The
Mhm.
other case, she's really well off. What are the karmic consequences here?
It depends on the personality. So if the rich person was gonna look around and be like, "What the fuck is going on?" and start going crazy on her kids, see, that would be more than if the same rich person looked at him and was like, "I don't give a fuck," right? So it
Ah,
depends on you don't have a control on this specific reality. So this is how people get like, you know,
wow. You know what's funny? I have a video coming up on karma, and I explained it exactly how you explained it, but I completely forgot. Because when I make the videos, I become pure spirit and I
mm,
say very wise things and I forget them, right?
interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And oh my God, I said the same thing in the video. I said this. I said, if you if I give somebody a compliment
Mm,
and that somebody feels really good, I'm gonna have a lot of good karma. But if I give somebody a good compliment and they're kind of whatever, they're detached, they don't take it too far, no karma. You see, like barely any karma, because that person who felt really good from the compliment is gonna go and spread the happiness and spread the joy and spread the love, and that's all because of my words, and that's all gonna be good karma for me. However, if I say to somebody a compliment, but like if you tell like a Sadhguru a compliment, he doesn't give a shit. He's detached. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I won't create any karma because he won't. It won't change his actions. It won't change anything.
You know, when you're saying that, I was thinking about like a society of non-detached people. Their whole existence would be just this one goal of non-detachment, like actually non-detachment happening. You don't have to do anything with it. It's like this because the other person, the other interactor, other is also like this.
In a society where everybody's enlightened, existence would cease to exist because there's no karma.
Hmm.
There's no karma, so
Interesting.
it would cease to exist.
I think we wouldn't be on Earth.
We wouldn't be on Earth, definitely not, because this plane of consciousness is ruled by karma.
Yeah.
Like it is here
Yeah.
because of karma. If
Yeah.
if if all karma was to cease to exist and it's all balanced, like the positive and negative is balanced, existence would disappear.
Yeah. Babaji, a great guru with no child past. Like there's no past of him as a child. He just incarnated. Because some of these yogis, they uh, disappear and they come back. You know, like a certain amount of time away. Because for them, only seconds passed. 100 years passed for us, but only a moment passed for them. Because they're not attached to karma, which is karma translates to our existence as time for us.
Right, right. For us, yeah, yeah. For us people who are still basically here because of our karma.
Yeah, but you can be here without karma.
Jesus, Muhammad,
Yeah,
Buddha, they were all here not because of
without.
karma, but because they received an assignment
Yeah.
from the cosmic council in the cosmic theater.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a really interesting way to put
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, they were on assignment.
You know, I feel like all these beings are the same existence. It's the same being because I think this is in my thoughts. I thought the biggest sin that human beings do, if there is sin, I don't know if there is actually sin, but the biggest conventional way that we can think of sin is that we're saying that we understand how God works and how it happens, and then we fight about it because if God or another existence is not limited to time, this existence can be in multiple places. Because if I'm here and I can also be here, and there's no seconds. Because if I put my mind to this, it's literally going to happen because there's no. I can just go there and come back and nothing happened, right? And like we're both happening at the same time. So all of the same elemental like personalities incarnated as the same existence, but there's no time, and people are fighting about this.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. Jesus and Buddha are the same person, the same consciousness.
It's the same, yeah, it's the same existence. Like all of this is the same existence.
Wow. Wow. Time and space, man. Time and space. That's what bound us here. Time and
Yeah.
space. Timelessness is the self-realized state.
Sadhguru says something about meditation is the method. I'm paraphrasing the method of bending space and time.
Essentially, I definitely feel like that on high doses of psychedelics. There's no time.
Hmm.
There's no time. In fact, the very mention of time sends me into a cosmic giggle where I laugh at the concept of time for like 5 minutes. I'm just laughing because I know in that enlightened state there is no such thing as time.
It's the same moment happening over and over again. We're just watching this clock. It's just
So basically there's nothing to do and there's nowhere to go.
I totally agree. It's the
Yeah.
same. It's the same. But you know, the problem is that not everyone wants to see this. You know what I mean? Because it hurts.
Well, not everybody is even ready to hear this, let alone see it.
No, I agree. I agree. I don't think it is our job to force this. Like, you know, and tell them about it. People actually come seeking on their own heart.
Krishna in the Gita says it is an immoral act to teach somebody wisdom who is not ready to hear it. He considered it to be an immoral act. You're actually creating bad karma. It's immoral because you're making that other person feel bad, or you're trying to conform them to your own state of consciousness.
Hmm. I think a lot of people need to see some stuff first, although they can jump it, because like seeing it is just one moment difference. You know what I mean? You can, everyone can make that jump. Like it's just like that, right? But some people want to see some other things first. They want to live in the duality of like, I'm not saying that we're completely non-dual. We're not. I don't think I am.
We wouldn't
But
be here.
yeah,
I'm not here on an assignment. I'm here to sort out my karma.
yeah. There's same with me. I think when you have these dualities, people need to experience all sorts of levels of pain and suffering, of attachment, and then they have to. That's pretty much what it sums to. Like,
It's just so hilarious. Everybody's trying to like sort out this shit, and everybody's eventually gonna get there. If everybody's gonna eventually get there, you know, but it
put this
just takes
box
like
here, put
fucking
this
millions
there.
of years.
Yeah, exactly. Just
Yeah,
shuffling random shit around the room, basically, and then like you're like,
yeah. Like somebody's here because you know like they're still attached to um chocolate, you know, and they're here trying to sort out their attachment to chocolate.
yeah,
You know, like
yeah,
that's how subtle, but that's how also how hilarious it is that some people are here to sort out these like menial, like trivial, mini, like little simple attachments, and they're here just to sort.
you know what? This brings up this one this thought. There's spiritual beings that are really, really like in high levels of non-duality, and they have higher attachment in certain ways of some things. It seems like than people who are like not as conscious. I'm not talking about, I guess, maybe the most enlightened masters, but like average people who have a higher conscious, they can still be attached to the same shit as the people with a lower conscious.
Well, so I'll give you an example of what you're talking about. You know Ramakrishna?
Hmm.
Ramakrishna pretty much was self-realized. Okay, he was one of the
Yeah.
rare folks that is on assignment, but he had something with food. See, he used to go to his wife, and he
Hmm.
used to be like, "Hey, you know, when is the food gonna be ready?" And he used to come back like 10 minutes later. When is the food gonna be ready? So he had a
Yeah.
little vice when it came to food, so much so that it embarrassed his wife.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay, his wife felt embarrassed because she's like, "You're this great saint. You have, you know, hundreds of disciples. People come to you from all across India to be in your presence, and here you are, you know, attached to food. You know, you got a little weakness for food." So he told her, "Look, if you serve me food and I turn it away,
Hmm.
I'm going to leave my body. I'm going to die, quote unquote, leave my body." They don't even use the word die there. They use the word leave my body,
Yeah.
right? They don't, their
There's
concept
no
of
doubt.
death, it's like that they don't even think of it as death.
Yeah.
So he told her, "When you serve me food and I turn it away, know that I will leave my body in 3 days."
Hmm.
And when that moment happened, many years later, his wife started to cry because he's going to leave his body in 3 days. And so, why was Ramakrishna creating why was Ramakrishna so-called have a weakness for food? He was creating a desire on purpose, deliberately, to keep him in this plane of existence. Otherwise, he would go on. He would leave his body, and he had a difficult time staying in his body because he would just continuously drift away into states of bliss, and he would come back, and it would take him some time just to come back to this physical existence and be able to formulate words.
Mm.
So some of these enlightened masters, they create the desire on purpose so that it grounds them in this physical plane of existence until their assignment is done.
Yeah, this is a really interesting topic. I think in some of Swamiji's ashrams, when you go there, you have to wear certain jewelry. It's because when you come into the state of non-duality, and it's like, a very high, I guess, quality of it, happening within you, you can just leave your body by accident. Like some random shit can happen. You can be like,
Yeah,
oh fuck, like you get scared, and then it'll just go too. You
yeah.
know what I mean? It's very interesting. I I watched this video about why deities are blue, and they were saying, Sadhguru was saying that it wasn't that their skin was blue, it was just that they're in this state and capable of completely being physical. So the blue represented this aura of complete timelessness happening, but being attaining complete physicality. I'm not saying Ramakrishna was not enlightened. He's enlightened, right? But this is talking about the blue. So in that same concept, if Jesus was painted in terms of this concept, he would be painted blue, not because his skin was blue. It was a representation to show that he's timeless, happening, but still occurring within physical.
Right, right. I heard Ram Dass say that to be a fully self-enlightened being is to be able to live at every single state of consciousness, at every plane. And
Hmm.
so I guess those enlightened beings like Jesus and Buddha and Krishna, they had no trouble being fully physical because they were able to live at all these levels simultaneously.
Yeah, I think I want to say something that's like, I guess it's kind of a trippy thought. Sadhguru says something about Shiva being like, maybe I understood it wrong, but Shiva being like non-human in human, like with humans, but he was non-human, right? And if we know then he wasn't actually blue, and he might have just been human color, does that mean that there's human that's not on Earth? Do you know what I mean? There is another existence of there's, I guess, the existence of Shiva is there,
It,
but it's not very far. You know what I mean in terms.
so what about Shiva? Maybe that's the color of the beings in the particular astral plane in which Shiva resides.
I'm not 100% sure like how the because there's many forms of Shiva, but what is the form that we're the source of a form? You know what I mean? That source, that color, I'm not sure. Maybe okay. So this is the thing about uh our eyes. The average human being eye, like just like dogs can hear things that we can't. Same thing for us. We can't even see the average person, and very highly conscious people can't literally see the full manifest. Forget about unmanifest. You know
Yeah,
what I
like
mean? Just even the
physical.
full
Yeah, yeah,
manifest.
yeah.
So whatever color that we are thinking of, it's just our personality has seen these colors, and we're trying to think of it like this, right? But if we could see the full manifest, the unmanifest occurring at the same time, then we would see the real image.
Huh. Wow, that is very trippy. And every time I think about dogs hearing stuff that we can't hear, the dog whistle, like that freaks me out. I'm like, what else is there? Like, what else is there that I can't hear right now, here in this room?
Mm-hmm.
I can't hear it, I can't see it. Maybe there is an entire civilization here that I just can't
Yeah,
see right now. You know?
yeah. Yeah, we do a lot of darkness meditation, and especially with this thought, this conclusion, knowing this and being in the darkness meditation, there must be a certain love that must exist to remain.
Yo, this is the most deceptive right here is the most deceptive sense. I feel like our sight is our biggest chain
Yeah,
to
yeah,
getting higher. Like sight.
yeah. I think the problem with our site, and I'm reading a book called Inner Engineering by Sadhguru. He says something that the problem with our five senses, right? Like our five senses, and sight being one of them, is that it only knows how to input into the brain using something of a reference. But if our parents never taught us a reference of the other manifestation that's happening, then we could never see it because we don't have a reference.
It's kind of like I'm able to see you now because of the wall behind you. There is a reference in which I can see your manifestation. If
Yeah,
there was no wall behind you, there was no background, I wouldn't be able to see the figure. You're the figure and the background's behind you, right? So it's kind of like it's the same concept is you need the reference to be able to see the other side of the duality, essentially. I mean, the duality that I'm
yeah,
looking at right now, it's you, the figure, and the background, right? That's the duality, but really it's all one thing.
yeah. A teacher of mine, the same teacher that taught me about Edgar Casey, he said that when Christopher Columbus, or the first European settlers, came to North and South America, all the native people were like, "There's waves here, but there's nothing here," because they've never seen a boat. There's no reference.
Oh, yeah, I heard
It
about
took
that.
them a while to see the boat. Like it happened though; they
Oh,
seen it.
wow, that's crazy. So yeah, I did hear about that too. So basically the boat was coming like to them, it was
Hmm.
like so for someone who's seen a boat before, you would be standing there and you would see you would have seen the boat a long time ago.
Yeah,
But for the natives, it took them a while to be able to register that there is a
exactly.
boat there.
Yeah. So I think when we're kids, we are born non-dual. We're born enlightened, right? And then we lose it. This is the problem.
Yeah.
So as children,
Joke.
yeah, you know what? I think this is the thing. Like if if children aren't taught non-duality, to keep their non-duality, they're gonna lose it. You know what I mean? The
Ah,
parents teach us what is sadness, what is happiness, what is this, what this looks like, what that looks. They don't know the manifestation to show.
right.
You know what I mean? They don't know what to show.
Wow. So with the right programming, everybody would just become the Buddha, like because they're already born
Yeah,
Buddha.
yeah. So I think that's it goes back to how these yogis, they spend a lot of time making or trying to make the ones in power non-dual, because they can change the existence for the average person having a child. You know what I mean? And
Uh-huh.
how they interact and how their society is going to go.
I see. I see. But the thing is, if the person in power isn't ready to hear the message, I don't know if any guru could do something about it. They can maybe accelerate it, but I mean I don't recall any case in history where a leader like a leader of a country of an empire was overturned into becoming more closer to enlightenment. I can't think of an example.
I think when it's been tried, because people have tried it. The great yogis have tried it. Bob Marley has tried it. He was at one point. Bob Marley was the biggest, one of the biggest political influencers, being
Yeah,
a spiritual man. This was like first
yeah.
time in history, in our time of history, how it goes. And he just died mysteriously. Osho, same thing. He did some things that are questionable in ways that people can question it. I don't know what's good matter of these things.
Well,
But
it turned a little sour at the end, you know. That's just kind of clear to see, you know. There
mm,
was a lot of, there was killing, there was blood, there was us and them. You know, that's kind of, that's not hard to see, right? That's pretty easy to see.
you know, uh, I don't actually know the conclusions, bro. I realized this because I remember there was a time that Swamiji said, I think I see Osho in this existence. It's Osho here. And this girl, she put up a note about Osho and like this whole thing. So Osho then would be in this non-duality, like a great enlightened person. If he's, you know what I mean? If he's able to have gone into um, this state between, and he can travel. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like
Yeah,
even
yeah,
though
yeah,
he
yeah,
passed
yeah, yeah, yeah.
away, he
Yeah.
still has this existence. Then it really makes me question. Then what do we know as good and bad? Like what is it that actually happened or not happened? Because Osho, I don't actually know what has happened or not happened. But
No, me neither. Me neither. I don't know enough to make a judgment per se.
bro, we don't know exactly what happened or not happened. Like in our time right now, you know, it's like we were talking about how like the Quran, right? Muhammad lived his existence in his physical form, and then it was written.
Yeah.
So like we're talking about this right now, and then later on, we can start thinking about the very specific, like how long we've been talking at this point. What did we say? We were not gonna know. You know what I mean? Like with this, what is the word that you said in this time?
Yeah, some people are gonna get butthurt, but you know, I'm gonna say it anyway. Like, come on, what are the chances that the Quran is the exact teachings of Muhammad? You know, it was written like a while, you know, after his death. And yeah, like you said, you know, you know, if I tell you a story and you tell it to somebody else and that somebody else tells it to somebody, you know, 50 people down the line, the story will be practically like different. You know, it'll be probably completely different or greatly altered, let's say. It'll be greatly altered.
You know, speaking of like the Quran and Muhammad, I think I think I said this to you maybe before. Saying that Muhammad was a violent person is equivalent to telling someone who took a selfie on Mount Everest that I'm not on Mount Everest. Because the way to get that enlightenment, you have to be nonviolent. So it doesn't make sense. So
Right?
whatever he was saying, you don't know what actually occurred or not. Like it's just what's just been said. It doesn't like this nonviolence was there.
Right, because some of the truths that he came up with, you can only come up with these truths. You can only tune into that frequency if you're a nonviolent person, if you're a nonviolent consciousness.
Yeah, you have to be not like nothingness, the nothingness.
You have to be nothingness, and in that, it's impossible to preach nonviolence. It's just impossible. In the same way that I turn a rock station expecting to hear rap, that's not gonna happen. In the same way, like if you're going into the void, into the no thing, it's impossible to preach violence. It's impossible to be violent. You can't be. It's that's you can't.
I totally agree. So like you can look at Osho, what happened to him, right? We don't actually know what was happening because I think he said at the end, the government, he was running a mystery school in America. Like this is like something really really big. Running a mystery school in America, it's like teaching people Raja Yoga. That breaks society. It
Yeah.
totally like deconstructs society. If American society is the first to get deconstructed in this point, the entire world will become non-dual, and a lot of people will lose a lot of money. I don't know, how that would go, but that would exactly how fast it would be. So Osho had to do maybe we I don't actually know what happened. Same thing with Muhammad. We don't actually know what happened exactly. Did he say this happened, that happened? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. No, I get what you're saying, and perhaps everything that happened after, it has nothing to do with Muhammad. Meaning, Muhammad doesn't have any karma to sort out. The people that fought after and preached violence and etc. they're creating their own karma and they're paying the consequences. But although it is in the name of Muhammad, a lot of the violence and whatnot, maybe Muhammad has nothing to do with it, because Muhammad has finished with his karma to begin with. He came here, he preached a message, and that's that. And now people are fighting over it. That's their own karma. He has nothing to do with it.
Sadhguru says something that was interesting. He said that, some people say like they're willing to die over you, but that's not the point. You know what I mean? Like the point of it is non-duality, right? Like human beings, the average person will just be like, all of us, even before we saw this kind of like this consciousness happening, that when you really want to do good for this world, you're down to die for it. And to die for it, you're gonna do what a good, well, it's like a good Christian versus a good Hindu versus a good Muslim. Like, no. Like, they're trying to do really good. You know what I mean? They really want to, right? But they're just using the data that was provided.
Yeah, yeah. So okay, now that we've sort of established that everybody's sort of running on a certain software, what is the most optimal and efficient way to reset the data points, to reset the software? Initially, I used to think it's psychedelics, but I don't think it's psychedelics anymore, because it's too much of a shock.
There was a time, and it happened for so little that I don't know what actually happened, but I felt that there was a separation slightly happening between me and like the other energy body, like some sort of, I'm not vocabularizing this properly, but basically like there was a separation occurring. And I was standing. I know at terms of deep meditation, I can drop because like I lose like some sort of, I'm not sure exactly, but I can drop. So I had to sit down because I didn't want to drop, right? So I sit down and I wasn't able to get to it. But I think I remember what I was doing that time. It was systematically going from point to point to point and making it non-dual. Like every occurrence in my mind, making it like all the thises and that's in the mind, making it just one occurrence, right? And then at that point, then some sort of timeless will come within you, and you can see the consciousness. And if you see like whatever hatred you have, whatever sadness, whatever anger, it has happened just as it has happened. You've lived so many different lives, so it's just what has happened. And look back into it and be like, this is just what has happened. So you don't hold on to the past. So all of the bad occurrences that you thought like this is really terrible accident in my life, you go back to it, be like, this is just what has happened. But in actuality, not just thinking it, you will actually feel it.
You feel it. Yeah, you told me about it. What was the name of it? The name of this practice of going back into your childhood?
Oh, completion.
Completion. Completion.
Yeah. It works a lot, in my opinion, it works a lot better if you are detached from your personality.
The problem is, man, most people are completely attached. They think they are the personality. They think they are the body. I mean, all you've got to do is listen to people's conversations, It, like, it's, you know what? You I think you've just got to not care. You've just got to develop detached compassion. I heard that term
Yeah.
today by someone. Detached compassion, meaning compassion. You see how it is. You see the whole journey of the soul getting lost and finding its way back to God, and you know that everybody's gonna get to the finish line, because everybody is programmed to get to the finish line. And then you develop a detached compassion, meaning, yeah, I see how it is. I see it. I feel for you. It's hard. I hear you. You're in that part of the evolution right now. I love you. I accept where you are, but you kind of detach from it. And I think that detachment, you stop wanting to change anything in anybody. and that's you sort of accept what is.
You know, I find that a harder or a hard blockage in this state you can run through, because you can run through a million points in a very short period of time, because one point of detachment will make like 100 other points just detached, and 100 other questions that you have ever had, it just all drops at the same time, you know what I mean? But one concept that it is personally for me is hard to bend around is that as you merge all of other into one, now you have your personalities family member that is like this loving concept. So as you merge all the, like, all of existence and make it one, then you have one, but then you look at your family, this one, and you see, if you ever thought like, what if this happens, what if that happens, and at the state of complete acceptance, what it's going to happen run in your mind, whatever is going to happen as it just happens. If you accept like this or that, you may think like, "Oh, my family's not that important." You know what I mean? Like, you may tell yourself your personality that like, actually this family, this element is not that important, or like something that, and then you would make you feel like, what if now something, let's say, like, what kind of thinking is this? Do you know what I mean? Like, this is like a really tough concept. I think it's one of the later concepts, and it's hard to get through this one.
Oh man, I think we'll end on that note.
Mhm.
And this has been an absolute blast. And man, I'm gonna have you more on the podcast.
It's a great pleasure, man. That's
Yeah,
nice.
listen. You're a foundational member in this podcast.
Oh man, I feel great that you're
Yeah,
saying that. It
you
means a
know,
lot.
how much I love you, brother. You know how much I
I
love
love you too, bro.
you. Yeah, you know how much I love you, and we'll keep doing this. We'll keep having you on the show, and I'll see you soon. I'll see you soon. Summer's coming around the corner, so I'll see you soon.
Yeah, that sounds
Okay.
good, bro.
Okay, brother. One love. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you. God
Thanks
bless
for
you.
having me, bro. Thank
Thank you,
you.
brother. Thank you. Thank you. And you know what? We'll say namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. And thank you guys for watching. Thank you for all our Patreons who are supporting this channel, this podcast, The Cosmic Theater. And if you would like to support us in the podcast and all the videos that we create here, ever since the first few Patreons, when I launched Patreon and we got the Patreons, I got really motivated to evolve this channel. So we have the podcast now, the live Q&A, and you know what? I'm just gonna keep doing this. So if you wanna help out with as little as $2 a month, a cup of tea's worth, so that when I go see this beautiful man here, I can buy him a cup of tea. Okay?
I'll get
So,
you one too.
okay. So, if you would like to support us, be part of the Patreon family, then you will see a link in the description. That's it. God bless you all, guys. My brother Akash, God bless you.
Well, God bless you,
Okay.
bro.
All right. Thank you very much. And we'll see you soon again.
Sounds good, bro. Have a good night.
God bless. Thank you. You too. Have a good night.